What if the CIA itself was compromised, not hacked, not infiltrated from the outside? Compromised from within by politics, by oversight theater, by the slow bureaucratic erosion of the one thing an intelligence service needs above all else: the ability to actually do the work. Now, what if someone inside decided not to reform it, but to build a second one inside it? A parallel structure. No congressional oversight, no inspector general filings, no organizational chart that any FOIA request could ever surface. Running real operations with real budgets inside the infrastructure of the official agency hidden in plain sight. This is the career of someone who spent 12 years inside that structure. They started as a 24-year-old research analyst who told themselves it was about the mission. By year 12, they were one of 4 people running it. This is what each of those years costs, what each of them changes, and what they leave behind. Level 1, Year 0. The Recruit. You're in a graduate seminar at Georgetown. Professor Hartwell is explaining the structural failures of the church committee reforms. You have 17 pages of notes. Your thesis defense is in 6 weeks. None of that will matter in about 4 months. Your phone buzzes under the table. You silence it. It calls again the next morning, and the morning after that. On the 4th day, you answer it in the parking lot of a CVS on Wisconsin Avenue holding a cup of coffee you never drink. The voice on the other end knows your full name, your thesis topic, your undergraduate GPA, the name of the girl you dated junior year, the fact that your father spent 11 months as a signals contractor for the NSA in 1987. The voice says it would like to have a conversation. It uses the word conversation the way a surgeon uses the word procedure, technically accurate, emotionally minimal, implying something much larger than the word contains. You go. The meeting is on the 4th floor of a building in Rosslyn with no visible signage. 3 people. Names you understand immediately are not their names. You answer questions for 2 hours. 14 days later, you're back in the same room. 2 months after that, a man introduces himself as your handler. He explains with bureaucratic precision that you've been recruited into an operational unit that does not appear in any congressional oversight database, any inspector general filing, or any organizational chart that exists. He slides a folder across the table. Inside a contract, a non-disclosure agreement, and a 1-page operational philosophy document that begins with a single line: "The agency we work within has stopped doing what the agency was built to do. We have not stopped." You sign it. You tell yourself it is because you believe in the mission. Partly that's true. The other part, the part you don't write down anywhere, is that you're 24 years old and you've spent your entire adult life studying a world you've been watching from the outside. Through footnotes, declassified cables, second-hand accounts. Someone is opening a door. They're asking if you want to walk through it. You start Monday. Level 2, Years 1 to 3, The Analyst. Your first assignment is so mundane that it takes you 3 weeks to understand its actual function. You're a research analyst. Open source intelligence, academic publications, financial filings, news aggregates in Arabic, Farsi, Russian. You write summaries. They go to a clearinghouse you never directly contact. You don't know who reads them. You don't know what decisions they inform. You sit in a commercial building in Arlington with 11 other people who have the same hollow, watchful quality as you. 12-hour days. $78,000 a year through a consulting LLC registered in Delaware. You tell people you work in policy research. Technically, that's not false. The moral architecture of what you're doing doesn't disturb you yet because the work is bloodless. It's information. You find it, you filter it, you pass it forward. The ethical weight you think is somewhere upstream or somewhere downstream. Not here. Not in a spreadsheet on a screen in Arlington. 8 months in, your supervisor, a flat-faced former DIA analyst named Reeves, puts a dossier on your desk. Corroborate a financial trail. You spend 4 days on it. You corroborate it. You pass it forward. 2 weeks later, Reuters. Jordanian businessman, found dead in Amman. Cause of death, cardiac arrest. Age 41. His name is in your dossier. You sit with the Reuters story for a long time. You don't mention it to Reeves. You don't mention it to anyone. You go home. You eat dinner. You watch television. You tell yourself that correlation is not causation, that a man in his 40s dying of cardiac arrest is not inherently suspicious, that your financial corroboration was one data point in a system with many data points, that the decision, whatever the decision was made by someone above you with more information, accountable in ways you are not. You almost believe all of that. Almost, for about a year. Level 3 years. 3 to 6, the field officer. By the time you're actually operating in the field, running your own source cultivation, traveling on a second passport, under a name that belongs to a person who has existed on paper since 2019, the dossier and the Reuters wire have been filed in a compartment in your mind that you no longer open during business hours. You open it sometimes at 2 in the morning. You close it again. You go back to sleep with the practiced efficiency of someone who has learned that functional rest is an operational requirement. Now the architecture you're operating inside. Here's the founding event, the one that started all of this. 2009. A hostile intelligence service runs a source inside the CIA's Near East Division. For 3 years, 11 operations compromised, 4 assets dead. The official agency response and Inspector General report, 3 reassignments. A senior CIA operations officer, the man the network knows only as Vantage, looked at that response and reached a conclusion. Not that the agency needed reform, that it needed a replacement. Vantage spent the next several years building a parallel structure inside the official one using legitimate agency infrastructure, legitimate cover, legitimate funding streams that were redirected in ways that someone would have to know exactly where to look to find. Almost nobody knew where to look. No congressional oversight, no inspector general filings, no organizational chart that a FOIA request could surface. Just the work at the speed the work required. You find this when you first fully understand it, either visionary or monstrous. You spend considerable time deciding which. Eventually you stop deciding. The category isn't operational. It doesn't help you do the work. The work at your current level is specific. You run 2 assets in the Gulf. One is a Qatari financial sector employee codename Amber, who passes you information about sovereign wealth fund movements being used to route money to weapons procurement networks. The other is a secondary source you know only by a contact protocol. You can't fully verify their intelligence. On 3 separate occasions, it's proven accurate in ways that materially changed network operations. You run them carefully. You protect them the way you protect any resource that's expensive to replace and impossible to replicate. You tell yourself this is not the same as caring about them as people. Most of the time you're right. Level 4, Year 5, Amber goes dark. You're in Rome on a Tuesday. Day 1, Amber misses check-in. Day 2, secondary protocol unanswered. Day 3, dead drop returns nothing. Day 4, you escalate to coordination. Reeves, who has moved up, who now sits in coordination, tells you to hold your position. Maintain cover. Day 5, nothing. Day 6, nothing. Day 7, 1 message. Compromised. Do not contact. I am managing it. Then nothing. You never hear from Amber again. You don't know if Amber is alive. You file the operational loss. You submit your assessment of what failed and why. You receive the official conclusion: asset-side security failure not attributable to operational error. You absorb this with the kind of quiet that comes from understanding there is no other answer that serves any purpose. You move forward. Level 5, Years 6 to 8, Coordination. By Year 6, you're in coordination yourself. You are now the person junior officers escalate to when their Amber goes dark. You are the person who tells them to hold position. You understand now what it costs them to hear that. You say it anyway. The network has grown. When you joined, primarily Gulf states' secondary presence in Eastern Europe. Now it spans 11 countries, 4 operational categories. Al-Sun, financial intelligence, counter-procurement, influence operations targeting hostile intelligence services, and a 4th category that your clearance covers, one you've learned to reference with careful vagueness even in encrypted communication. The 4th category has a budget allocation of $47 million annually. The money comes from redirected agency funds, 3 private sector entities whose principals are either witting or willfully ignorant, and a foreign intelligence service whose cooperation with Vantage has no official existence anywhere. In Year 7, you're sitting across from the new junior officer you've been assigned to orient. You're listening to him explain why he signed the contract. He gives you the same reasons you gave 9 years ago. The mission, the frustration with institutional failure, the sense that the real work was happening somewhere outside the visible structure. You hear it the way you now hear most things: as information, as signal, as a profile of a person you need to calibrate. He asks you at the end how you maintain perspective. He uses the word perspective the way people use it when they mean, how do you stay sane? You tell him perspective is a resource like any other. You manage it accordingly. He nods as if this is clarifying. It isn't yet. It will be. Level 6 years, 8 to 10, the authority. In Year 8, Vantage makes direct contact for the first time. 20-minute encrypted call. Voice, unremarkable mid-60s Midwestern, the cadence of someone who learned long ago that authority doesn't need to announce itself. He tells you coordination is being restructured. Your new role will carry expanded authority over field operations across 3 regions. He tells you that of the 4 people assessed to qualify, you are one. You don't ask what happened to the other 3, you accept. Here is what this level actually looks like from the inside. You travel on 3 passports, 4 active phones, a communication rotation that requires a written protocol to track. You attend official CIA meetings twice a month, maintaining your cover designation with the casualness of someone who has worn a coat so long they've forgotten they're wearing it. The gap between what you tell people and what is true has become structural. It's not lying anymore. It's architecture, different layers of the same building. The decisions are different now. Not more frequent, actually fewer, but each one carries a density the earlier ones didn't. When you authorize an intelligence collection operation targeting a foreign national on U.S. soil, you're making a decision that is illegal under Title 18 and arguably under 3 separate executive orders. You've constructed a legal rationalization that is technically not empty, but that you would not want to defend before any body with subpoena power. When you greenlight a disruption operation against a hostile services asset network in Warsaw, 3 people in the official agency structure would make that call differently if they had your information. You make it without them. You'll never be able to account for the divergence. You make these decisions the way a surgeon makes decisions under pressure with available information at necessary speed held to the standard of outcome, not process. You don't always know the outcome. You know your probability assessment. You sign on that basis. You move forward. You update the model when the outcome is known. You move forward again. What this does to you over years is not dramatic. People expect the accumulation of moral compromise to look like collapse, like corruption, like the cinematic deterioration of someone losing themselves. It doesn't look like that. It looks like precision. It looks like a person who has stripped away every non-essential response to difficult information and kept only the functional core. You are sharper than you were at 24, more capable. You understand more. You are moved by less. These 2 facts are not separable. Level 7 years 10 to 12, the architect. In year 10, you learn the full founding logic of Vantage's network for the first time. Not the operational structure, you've known that for years. The actual precipitating event. The reason. The 2009 penetration. The 3 years. The 11 compromised operations. The 4 dead assets. The Inspector General report. The 3 reassignments. Vantage's conclusion, the official response to a catastrophic failure, was to write a report and move some people around. The network you've been operating inside for a decade was the alternative response. Hearing this articulated doesn't change anything. It confirms what you already understood. The network was built on a real problem with real stakes by someone who concluded the official response was insufficient. Whether that conclusion justified everything that followed is a question you used to spend time on. You've mostly stopped. The network exists, you're in it. The work is real. You believe this. Most of the time, you believe it completely. In the moments when you don't, you close the compartment. You move forward. By year 12, Vantage is gone. Not dead. Retired. Moved out of operational reach. His name now an institutional concept more than a person. The network has a new architecture, distributed authority. 4 people at the apex, each holding a quadrant of operational control. You are one of them. No single director. No single point of failure. No single person whose removal collapses the whole structure. You understand the design. You are no longer operating inside Vantage's vision. You are operating inside an institution that has developed its own gravity. It runs because the people inside it are committed, trained to standard, carrying enough institutional memory that it would take years of sustained effort to dismantle even if someone with official authority tried. Some days, this feels like the definition of success. Some days it feels like exactly what you were always trying to prevent, an institution that has outgrown its accountability structures. Most days it feels like both, simultaneously, without resolution. The decision, year 12, Tbilisi. This morning a briefing arrives from your sector. An operation in Tbilisi has produced intelligence indicating a hostile service has potentially identified one of your 4 current field officers. The briefing asks for a decision. Option 1, continued operation. If the identification is soft, the officer can be maintained productively for another 4 to 6 weeks. There is time-sensitive intelligence collection underway. Option 2, extraction. Option 2 is the officer. You read the briefing twice. You pull the officer's file. You review the risk assessment. You sit with it for 37 minutes. That's longer than you sit with most things. A decade ago, the fact that this decision goes through no review, no second signature, no oversight body, no accountability structure would have registered as the thing it is. Now it registers as the decision at the end of a 37-minute analysis, weighted appropriately, made by the person with the most relevant information and the authority to act on it. You issue the extraction order. The operation in Tbilisi loses 6 weeks of progress. The officer lands in Frankfurt 12 hours later. She files her debrief. She's intact. You receive the confirmation. You move to the next item. Closing, the cycle continues. Somewhere across town, a 24-year-old is sitting in a graduate seminar. 17 pages of notes, thesis defense in 6 weeks. His phone buzzes under the table. He silences it. It will call again tomorrow. He'll answer it on day 4. He'll sign the contract. He'll tell himself it's because he believes in the mission. He'll be right about that. He won't yet know what believing in the mission eventually costs, what it gradually replaces, what it leaves behind in the compartments it teaches you to build and close and never open during business hours. He'll learn. You already have. The work continues. But here's the question the work never answers. At what point does a structure built to fix a broken institution become exactly the thing it was built to fix? Vantage looked at the CIA and saw an institution that had outgrown its accountability, that had developed its own gravity, that operated outside the reach of the oversight meant to constrain it. He built the network to do the work the CIA could no longer do. 12 years later, you are running that network. And if someone looked at what you've built, the parallel structure, the redirected budgets, the operations that no inspector general will ever review, they might reach exactly the same conclusion Vantage reached about the CIA. You know this. You've known it for a while. The compartment is closed. The work continues.